Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today in this Talking Business event, Women in Tech, Presence and Rising Power. My name is Jason Diet. I'm the Vice President of Uninter Global Hub. I will be the moderator of this event that brings together three inspiring women and with experience in the tech sector. The goal is for me to speak as little as possible to maximize the time that we have to learn from our guests. Briefly, the mission of Global Hub is to bring more of the world to Uninter and take more of Uninter to the world. I'd like to thank all internal partnerships at Uninter, which made possible the creation of Global Hub in 2020 and this event, Talking Business. Now I'm going to introduce each one of our guests here today with one single sentence. We have a couple of interactive conversation in Portuguese, then you're going to turn it into English for our third conversation with the focus on international experience. So first of all, I'd like to welcome Cristiana Mello. Chris Mello is the Chief Road Officer at Cato, where she strengthens the relationship with companies and recruiters with a marketplace of 270,000 positions. The second person to talk is going to be Camila Rizzi. She's a co-founder and CEO of Manuvi, a startup that have raised money of around 4 million reais that connect safety cameras using artificial intelligence to generate real-time alerts. And the third talk is going to be with Gabriela Guerrero. She was born in Venezuela. She was hired by any studios after receiving many international awards in graphic design, like the Latin American Graphic Awards. Now, let's start with the first conversation here. Welcome, Chris, and it's a pleasure to see you again here today. Chris, the first question that I have for you, you have a professional journey that's very interesting, very inspiring, that goes through different technology companies, leaders in their industry, Tivit, Embratel, GVT, Vivo Team, and now you are an executive at Cato. Could you share with us a little bit how did you manage to get each one to get to be part of each one of these activities, and what was your main learnings, and for what would you take from your career from each one of them? So thank you so much for your for this initiative. About my career, actually, we have like around 25 years. We met when I was at Tivit, and I've always looked for and I challenged myself in order to bring together my formal education. So I went to good schools and practical experience. I've always tried to focus in results. In the beginning of my career as an intern, I joined Grupo Promon for as a business developer to analyze when the telecom market was started to open. The privatization in Brazil was just in the beginning, and I fell in love with this industry. And one thing led to another, and I showed that I have a good potential. I executed things right. I've always tried to show a good balance between planning, execution, and results. And with that, I've always tried to be careful on how to do things in order to keep people engaged, uh, be aware of their day-to-day lives, to have a very good network. And this network that led me to new opportunities in this sector. Many people knew my work and they would see a position and say, okay, that position looks like a good fit for Chris. The first opportunity came with Main Street recruiting for internships and trainees and so on and so forth. And everything else came from recruiting for people knowing my position and what I could bring to the company. So my learnings, they all funnel into that, like to have soft skills, being very careful on how we do things, how we behave, how we show our commitment, making sure that we show our values and ethics, and also delivering the results, keeping a growing network all the time and a positive one, leaving our mark. And that's our main points. Okay, challenge of a great insertion of women in leadership. It's known in English as the Old Boys Network, which is a network of old men that privilege those that are similar to those in power. So men giving opportunity to other men, especially in promotions and compensation and improvement in their careers. How the recruiting process can impact this phenomenon, and how are companies eliminating bias in the hiring process? Very good question. I'm in this market for a while, so I've been through this experience and been able to see the old boys network, being able to break into some parts and to bring into context. I think it would be interesting to get some data from the Global Gender Report. Um, they said that we need 135 years to get into to equalize this market. And in tech, we are even more far away. Based on a Cathol survey from the beginning of February, 20%, 21.5% of the market last year was uh, was for females. So we have still a long time to go to reach 50%. Technology can help us to speed up this time, to get us there faster. And the process as well are crucial. So I think we have technology that can help in the beginning of the search. We have some companies working in blind recruitment. I think it's a very interesting process. And we also have in some marketplace and the labor market platforms to generate some filters to focus on the skills, on competencies and experience, and not look at gender in the beginning or halfway through the search. And we can also establish process in the companies to try to bring down those barriers. For example, establish that we always need to have a woman at the end of the process, establish quotas that can be good to speed up this process. So technology can help in the beginning to speed up the process, but it also can bring down some bias in the beginning. Getting at the end of the funnel, usually go to interviews, and we don't have many women working there. So we can work with quotas or some stimuli to have um, women as finalists in the process so that they can be taken into account at the end of the process. The pandemic has changed the way we work all over the world. And how does the growth of the virtual work and the remote working had an impact in women's hiring and professional growth, especially in the tech sector? I think it helped a lot. We do some surveys with HR professionals. We did one in January with 74 HR respondents, and that's a trend, a strong trend. Hybrid work, especially in technology, we see how the technology market is heated up, Uh, some companies opting to remain 100% uh, a digital or remote working. Uh, for women, that is fantastic because we know that women have multiple roles, especially if they decide to be mothers, to have a family. We still have an equal balance in terms of house the housework. So, and especially in cities like São Paulo, we waste a lot of time in commuting, and we waste less time trying to balance and balance all the plates. I'm living proof of that. Cato decided to this new working model, and we opted to remote first. We keep our office. There have some activities happening there for some alignment, some face-to-face meeting, some celebrations, and so our managers can plan to go there with their teams to go to the office. But we are decided to go remote first, and that was very well received. I have a team with predominantly women. We have at Cato 63% of women. We improved our work environment. We did a survey and showed exactly that. And women can see that as a way to remain productive, growing, and also being able to manage house and family activities, home and family activities. Catos attends different companies like technology, IBM, Nextels, and I mean financial sectors, Itaú, Bradesco, Santander, but also retail companies, right? Magazine Luiza, Pão de Açúcar, well-known brands in Brazil. What are the main trends in terms of hiring, and how can our listeners can position themselves for success? In the same survey that we did with HR professionals, we realized the top 5 trends like safety and well-being, 77%, forming leaders, 70%, assessment, and the experience of the employee. I mean, all that means that the companies are concerned about safety, well-being, keeping their workers engaged and happy, because it's clear that engagement and happiness will bring more productivity. It's not that, okay, I'm the good guy. No, it brings results. And when we look at soft skills that being uh, searched now, proactiveness, teamwork, relationship, uh, problem solving skills, everything that has to do with this new way of working. It's not that new anymore, but with the pandemic and digital transformation in working in squads, each one having their own tribes, working multidisciplinary teams in a collaborative way. So our students, candidates, they have to start thinking about that. How am I doing in my soft skills? And when they go to an interview, they have to assess how this company see this, all this, this other situations. Okay, when I came to Brazil for the first time during the telecommunication open in Brazil, uh, um, a business letter, a presentation letter, and a good CV was important for a candidate. What has changed and what remains there in hiring? And for online hiring, we have algorithms and artificial intelligence. So Kata is a business employment platform. And we help to match the candidate and the hiring company or the recruiter. And the AI is very interesting because it allows agility and efficiency. We can select from a huge range of candidates. The AI helps us in the screening, and we have a primary list. Before, the recruiter had like the 3 folders. Yes, next steps, maybe, okay, there might be a fit, and no. So we used to have 3 piles of CVs in our desks. Now AI does that. So I have now those 10 uh, possibilities for you to assess. And then you can do some tests, and then we go to the final stage, which is the interview, assess how coherent this candidate is presenting to us, what is in their CV, and how does this person work in practice, what their soft skills are, and how do they behave uh, in their day-to-day work. And but I think it's important. It's important to have this, uh, like to reach that time. We now we can do it faster. Okay, good mentors are very important in professional growth for professional success. So, what are your advice on how to find, how to best leverage knowledge and goodwill of mentors? Okay, I have a mentor. He was my boss a long time ago, and we are still in contact. Once every semester, we meet, we chat. So I looked for someone who I admired and could compliment me. You cannot go for a mentor. You shouldn't go for a mentor that is too similar to you. That's not gonna add anything to you. So first is to have for the person to do a self-assessment. So what sort of feedback do I need? What sort of mentoring do I need? What do I need to know better about myself, or someone who can help me? And then go after someone who's going to bring uh, all this background. You don't, if you go for someone that is well known in the marketplace, but it's going to give you uh, a recipe, but it's not going to add anything new to you. A mentor needs to give you their time. So, secondly, ask good questions. It's important time to ask good questions. If you just go and just wait and see, what do I want from this mentorship? How can this mentor help me? What are the important points that I need to clarify about myself, about my career, about my perspectives in terms of my career? So I like a sentence from the quotation from Tim Brown: if you're the most intelligent person in a table, you are the wrong table. You have to go and look for a table where you have people more intelligent than you, someone that complement you. You can search at your network or LinkedIn, but that don't get frustrated if your first try doesn't work, if there's no match with the first mentor that you try. But I think it's a very rich experience. You have some paid process, but actually I went for someone who knew me, who knew my work, who knew my strengths and weaknesses and opportunities. I love this the definition that you gave. I'm at the right table. I'm gonna stay here. Okay, now let's pass the floor to Camila, and then we go to Chris in a round table. Camila, before asking questions. Can you tell us a little bit more about USA? Cato is a large company and you launched a small company. So what is Manuv? What do you do? Good evening. Thank you, Jason, for the invitation to be here. Manuv is a startup. We use a software that connects safety cameras to get the image of this camera, get it out from the physical world, bring to the digital world, to the cloud, apply AI so that people can get the benefit of having a camera without having to invest hours and hours watching videos or pay someone to keep watching these videos to be able to have safe security and control of something. So Manu is gonna be 5 years old soon, and it's a challenge to this business of entrepreneurship. Um, but I love what Chris had to say. So launching a startup is not easy, right? Many people work during the day as an employee to innovate in the middle of the night. So keep a source of income is important, but it always keeps you awake. So how were your first 2 years at Maneuver, and what went through your mind in the middle of the night and when we were thinking about embracing Maneuver 100% of the time? Not easy, not easy at all. Actually, we're talking about 3 years without income at Maneuver, 2 years that I worked with Maneuver in another activity. I was working in a sales consulting company where I worked for 15 years. And I was working at Maneuver in the middle of the night, so lunchtime. And honestly, throughout 2 years, I didn't actually, I've never thought about closing Maneuver. What I was thinking was, when can I make this business grow so that I can have an income so I can dedicate 100% of my time to Maneuver? And it's not easy to do this this startup. I was married at the time, so it wasn't a decision that I could do myself. I have to stop having an income. So it has a couple's decision. And honestly, I couldn't make this decision that easily. I made that decision when me and my partner, uh, well, my partner, we had a fight, and our question was really good because it keeps you awake at night, being divided, but it's part of maneuver growth. It's the chicken and the egg. When is this been this be growing enough to allow me to have an income, but do I know whether if it's going to grow or not? So at that time, at the first year, we managed to grow a lot. The second year, business was like flat. And at the end of the second year, we're losing opportunities, losing clients at the time. And I was more in the business part, and he was in the hard tech part of the business. And we had a fight and said, we either close this business or we're going to focus on that. And at that dawn, I started I applied for an acceleration program. We were approved. And the acceleration program was the perfect opportunity because it had the start in the beginning. So that was the time for me to make the decision to take this leap. Without this acceleration program, I don't know if I will be able to make the decision, because you never know how long it's going to last until you really know if that business is going to work or not. So with the acceleration program, I had a defined 4 month time, and I told my husband, dear, it's make or break. Poor translator. It's either work or gonna work or not, and it worked. And yeah. So, what was the main learnings from this 4 month acceleration program? Great question. Uh, Two very important parts of this acceleration program that contributed to maneuver growth was not only learning, but it was the focus. Actually, my partner and I, we were like 200% uh, involved and focused at Manu, and that made a huge difference. In 4 months of acceleration, we more than doubled the size of our business. It was very important, very, very important. The second point that I found really crucial was to get into the world of scalable models. My career as an executive was the mainstream market. We were never talking about growth. Now Chris is the head of growth. At that time, there was no one talking about growth. It was a commercial department, marketing departments, and so on. I have a corporate career. Bruno has a corporate career. And for 2 years, we were trying to grow a traditional company. We weren't connected into the SaaS ecosystem, the recurrence technology model, scalable model. So with this acceleration, we had an immersion in this model. What is a scalable company? What is an agile methodology? How do you make decisions? We learned about the concept of MVP, uh, things that it's not that we didn't know, but we were doing things empirically, but we finally understood that there's a methodology. There are companies that if we follow this working methodology, we will get there faster. And that was a huge shortcut for us. Made a huge difference to take the plunge into this methodology of working as a startup. And finally, um, the mentor network. I must say the League of Ventures, that was the accelerator who received us, high quality people, and I came from sales. Okay, so my partner, my business partner, is from development. We were really bad in finance, bad finance, unit economics, no idea what that meant. And then I did a mentorship with the CFO of iFood, the iFood CFO. So, and I had mentors available, not someone to just give me a lecture. No, we have a meeting for 2 hours. He was with me for a few weeks until I managed to incorporate what he was trying to give me. So I recommend to participate in incubators, accelerators, uh, if possible, without equity. It's a good tip because it makes a difference. It helps us to uh, put us on the right track. It's a question, but it's also something that covers many areas. Selling. We are always selling an idea as an individual, selling a product, and the process, a sales process to get talents. I read a post that you wrote. It's like save hostages and get out of a bus before the bomb exploding is easy. Hiring someone, a data science for SaaS, that is mission impossible. So what is the importance of being able to hire a talent or get an investment or bringing someone to the company, to your company? How do you hire talents? Very good question. And it has a lot to do with what you said. It has a lot to do with sales. I'm a sales professor, so it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an engineer, we are all salespeople. We are selling an idea. You were selling something to your partner, to your friend. If you're looking for a job, you're selling yourself. So hiring someone, go for raise money. Behind all that, there is a skill that is the communication skill that many people don't take that into account. But let me take a step back. Sales is communication. It's you communicating clearly that can help someone to solve a problem. So when you sell something, you are helping someone else to solve their problem. At Maneuver, I did this posting how impossible it looks to hire a data scientist. We were talking about that in this world, this tech world, the most technical positions. The market is very aggressive right now. We have some unicorns, some fintechs, some startups that are actually um, taking part of the job positions in the market. And to us, startups, early stages, it becomes a huge challenge to attract talents. Selling maneuver, for example, it's part of our strategy. The employable brand. I think we were successful there. The maneuvers, who we call our employees, they are passionate about the business. Me and my business partner, we are here today because we are always trying to participate in communities, contribute, and show how at Maneuver we are part of an ecosystem and we can create an environment, a good environment for people to work. Even though it's a mission impossible to hire a data science, as we said before, and as we were talking at the backstage here, we are experiencing a time that because of supply and demand, we have an abundance of uh, of talents receiving a compensation that is huge, and they cannot build a career in a single place because they will change companies really fast, and that's not good to to the individual, to the professional, that because they don't have time to develop, and we ended up having a not a win-win but a lose situation. The company cannot fill that position, and the employee doesn't develop him or herself. That so Chris can talk a little bit more from how he sees it from a recruiting company point of view. At Maneuver, it's difficult. It's been difficult to fill out some positions. What we've been doing as a strategy, not only we're investing uh, at Maneuver, we are getting closer to the universities, to the training courses to bring these professionals as soon as possible to Maneuver so they can be part of our culture. And here, they're going to develop the competences, the technical competences, and we are trying to get people with a profile and train them here. So thank you so much. We'll be back with you in our round table. Now I'm going to switch into English.
A pleasure to have you with us. We, as you have probably been listening to, started with advice and responses from Cris Melo, who works at a very large company in Brazil. We have a startup view, a startup that's gotten successful funding and is growing. But I thought it would be really interesting and important to hear your story as an individual who has successfully done what a lot of people who are watching are interested in. So you have started in your education in graphic design at the University of the Andes in Venezuela. You then moved to the US to finish your education at Endicott College. And now I'm just curious as to what were your personal and professional motivations and the challenges at the time you made that decision to move from Venezuela and to pursue your dream?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you so much, Jason, for the invitation. I'm very excited to talk a little bit about my experience. And so in regards to my decision about moving from Venezuela, I always had the idea of living in a different country, but I was like, initially I would think about it, to get exposed to a different culture and just learn more about the design industry overseas. But I actually ended up moving earlier than what I was expecting. And that was because of the situation in Venezuela. So the country was like in a pretty bad crisis in the moment that I was living back there. And I was studying graphic design. And it just got to a point where it was pretty much, I was getting to a point of survival somehow. So, just like trying to get like really basic resources and services, electricity, water, food, internet, it was very complicated. And I also felt because of all that situation, my education was also at risk. And the university where I was studying, at some points, it was like about to close, like even for periods of 6 months, the university was closed. So it was pretty hard. Like I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to finish my education or not. Like even professors were leaving. So that's when I started looking for opportunities to, finish my education overseas. And I was very fortunate because I was granted a full scholarship, and I was able to transfer my credits from Venezuela to the United States and graduate here. And so that's kind of like why I made that decision at that time. And in regards to the challenge, I think the biggest challenge was just like the cultural shock. And it was just like my life changed like 100% from one day to the other. So just like everything, like education, like the educational system was different, technology was different, and the culture, language, like it was just like a pretty drastic change. And also coming from a country in crisis to a place where I pretty much had everything, like all the resources available, and realizing how people were not very aware of that, which is like, it's completely understandable if you grow in a country where you have everything, and that feels normal. But as I was coming from that background, it felt, it was just really like hard to process. So that big change, and I also came by myself. So I was kind of like going through all that change alone. So yeah, that was the biggest challenge.
Yeah, no, those are huge challenges. And I'm curious because before taking your current full-time job at Animus Studios, you considered launching your own startup and you participated in an accelerator program. So I'm curious, this is, and I think many people have these differences. So Camilla talked about choosing one branch. You are working full-time and using your talents within an existing company. What's behind that decision, and how did you end up choosing to do what you're doing?
Yeah, so when I had the idea of starting like my startup, I wasn't really thinking about, I want to make a business. Like that wasn't really what I had in my mind. I was coming from a graphic design background, and I had like this graphic design project idea in my mind. And I think I wasn't fully aware of the potential of that project. And I just wanted to, design this product because I was just thinking in the visual aspect of it. But I had this idea when I was still in school, and when I, talked to my professors about it, they were all like, you can make a business out of this. Like this is a big idea, and you can really make a product and, start your own company. And so I decided to start the Accelerator program, and it was very overwhelming because I think I wasn't sure of what I was getting into at the moment. I didn't know anything about like businesses and startups and pitching projects, finding investors, finances, like everything was new to me. And at the same time, I was finishing school and I was in the process of finding a job. I didn't have my scholarship anymore, so I needed to secure something. And so I started my full-time job, and then I was also trying to start my startup, but everybody, like who has tried to start a startup while having a full-time job knows how complicated it is. It's just so much work. And I didn't know like what I wanted to do. Just at the time that I started the program, I realized that it was much bigger than what I thought it was going to be. And it will require, finding new people to work with me, because it will I will need to approach so many different topics and just fields that I just couldn't do by myself. So in that time, it was the pandemic, and I was far from home, far from my family. I was isolated, plus starting a new job, trying to be good in my job and giving my best, plus starting my company. It just was so overwhelming. So I decided to stop it and, to pause it for some time while I figure things out. And yeah, that's why I kind of ended up pausing it.
Sure, no, and I know I had the chance to work with you before and just see your skills, so I'm not surprised that somebody snapped you up and hired you as quickly as they possibly could. So that's a great outcome. You mentioned how when you arrived in the U.S. from Venezuela that people didn't recognize everything that they had access to and that they had all of these advantages. I'm curious, there's also another side, right? There's a lot of infrastructure, there's a lot of functioning systems in compared to some places, but there are also misperceptions about daily life and how things might be, especially with Hollywood and a lot of exports of things that aren't necessarily accurate. So I'm curious, what was your biggest misperception about what daily life would be like, and that was different from what it turned out to be?
Right. I think, and it is also related to technology. Right before coming, I was very nervous about technology, and I felt that I was in disadvantage because back home we didn't have all these resources. And so I would think I was going to a school in the United States and people will have the best computers, best drawing tablets, everything they need to, do great job. And I was thinking I wasn't going to be good enough because I didn't have all this stuff back home. But then when I came here, I realized, I learned to use things, and I also realized that as long as you work hard, obviously, if you're in a place where you have more resources and more tools, that is going to help you. But, if you work hard and you are really focused on what you want to do, and you really put a lot of thought in the process of whatever you are creating, it's just going to be you and your abilities where it's going to get you where you want to be, more than, having the best computer or things like that. So that was kind of a misperception that I had before.
Great. Well, I want to thank you. We have about 15 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we have time for a sort of a roundtable and questions from the audience. And I have a few students. So I'm going to switch back to Portuguese. We'll have translation for you, and we'll keep going. So thank you so much. Agora estou trocando para o português e eu gostaria...
Now I'm switching into Portuguese, and I'm going to open a Q&A session. We have a professor, a UNINTER professor here, and a UNINTER student here. We're going to ask a question. Now I'm going to start to Professor Maria Alves, and in the beginning, with internal partnerships that I was talking about that made the Global Hub possible and all these events possible, the business school possible. One of the most important partners is Professor Maria. She's a leader in digital marketing. And Maria, you have the floor. Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's a pleasure to meet you all, Camila, Cristiana, and Gabi. I'm here listening you. I'm already a big fan of the three of you. So now my question is specific for Cristiana. Chris, I'd like to understand how a woman specifically, what kind of this woman has to have to work in technology and how they can get into this market. What is the profile that this women can have to do well in this area? Actually, is there a specific profile? Thank you, Maria, for your question. Well, I think that to be a good technology profile, you need to have some technical skills, of course, and to be able to solve problems and to work with these problems. But today, as I said, we've been working more and more in squads. And you have to be a team worker and be collaborative. You have to work in a discovery, and you have to develop a solution for the problem or a feature or something. So women has an advantage there because historically it's easier for a woman to work in multidisciplinary teams, to communicate and work with multiple topics at the same time. I think that's a characteristic that we developed since we were kids, and I think it's an advantage. I don't think that the man it's easier for a man to work in technology. I just think that at a certain time, someone said, okay, let's not take that path. But for me, it's the opposite. We need to try. If you like to solve problems, to work in teams, if you like technology in general, you have to try. You have to go after training. Here at Cato, we develop a program to develop women to be programmers, to try to reduce this gap. We have full scholarship for women, and then we're going to invite 15 of these women to work with us. The selective process was incredible. And now we had like a very broad profile, a broad spectrum of age, um, region, and background. So it's a matter of willingness and go after getting trained in the formation. Sometimes we forget that technology is multidisciplinary. Oh, I'm not good in math. That's my weakness. It's not about that. You need to have that profile or the other profile to work in technology. No, of course not. Working in teams, you're gonna have some. We have one skill complementing the other. We have PO, product owner, product manager, developers, programmers, team leaders. So you're going to have different positions and roles. And of course, in some of them you might need math, but not in all of them. There are many spectrum that you can approach and try to understand where you're going to have your best fit, where we can use most of your potential. Perfect, thank you. Great. Now I'm going to pass the floor to one of our students here. I've been working with her. She's very talented in graphic design, and she's a Uniinter Global Ambassador, a small group that started out of more than 1,000 candidates. Suzanne, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Hi, Gabriela. So my name is Suzanne. I'm a freelance illustrator, and I study animation design at Uniinter to try and broaden my horizons. And I'm interested in creating my own brand like you. And I had a chance to look at your portfolio, and I was really amazed by your work. You are definitely an inspiration to young artists who are just starting out in the business, such as myself. I work a full-time job as an illustrator, and I sell my products abroad as well. And I know that the international market is very different from the market we have here in Brazil. And I'm sure you had that same realization once you moved to the US, the things they value, how much they pay for stuff. And my question is, if you have ever struggled with placing monetary value to your work at the beginning, and if you did, how were you able to overcome that struggle?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question, because I think for all creatives, that's like a problem. Always, like, we always feel that we shouldn't charge, and somehow, I don't know why artists feel that way, and because we are spending time doing what we do, and our time is valuable, and our skills and our talents, but it's always difficult, and especially when we're coming from countries like in South America or like in Venezuela, and sometimes people wouldn't really see the value of the work that you do, and at the beginning it was very, very hard. Like, sometimes I will just do things for free or like pretty low price, and that's something that I feel most people have to do at the beginning. But I think when I started to have like more clients, and I moved here, of course, like once I moved here and I started to see, okay, like this is actually how expensive life is. Like, I don't just give away my work. And the more demand you have, the most you realize that your work is actually valuable, because if people want to work with you, it's because what you do is, sorry about that, it's because what you do is, it's valuable to them. So being aware that if you are the only person that is going to defend what you do, and if you don't explain what you do and why you do what you should charge, what you want to charge, and people won't get it. Sometimes it's easy to just think like look at a graphic work and think, oh, maybe they just spend like an hour doing this, but something can take way more time. And if you explain to clients what is your whole process, like, I don't just sit down and make an illustration. I need to think what I'm gonna make. I need to think about a concept. I need to make different sketches. I need to test different things. So if you explain what your process is and why you need to charge what you want to charge, people will be more aware. It's more about educating your clients and letting them know what your value is and why you charge what you charge.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
Perfeito. Agora eu vou pegar duas perguntas.
Okay, now I'm gonna get a couple of questions, similar questions from the audience, and we're gonna start with Camila, but it's open for other answers. Simone asks, what is an accelerator program? What does that mean? And Veronica asks, what's the difference between a mentor and a coach? Well, the Accelerator program is a program that is designed to accelerate your business. It's going to give you all tools you need to accelerate the growth of your business. We have many formats of accelerators programs. Some involve capital, money, that with this money you can accelerate your growth, but some of them don't have money involved. They're going to help you with working infrastructure. Of course, now everything has changed, but at the same time, we had 4 positions in WeWork, São Paulo, access to a network of mentors, access to strategic contacts for potential investors, potential clients, exchange with other startup founders. So many tools that will actually help you to have a utility belt so that we can make your business grow. I don't know if someone want to add, but I think that's how I understand my accelerator, what an accelerator program means. I don't know if Chris want to talk about the difference between a coach and a mentor. Perfect, that would be great. And can I add something? It's actually another question here. We have a student who couldn't uh, remain with an ambassador group. She was interested in the impact of LinkedIn. I think that if you could answer to this question, because it changes the way we hire people, right? And so she wanted to know the impact of that. I think that the global ambassadors, we require, actually, we ask people to have a professional LinkedIn profile. I don't know what Chris is going to say, but she can talk about that also. Go ahead. Well, the difference between coach and mentor, how I see it, okay? Both have the same final goal, to help someone, a woman who wants to work in technology, to develop their potential and advance. What changes is the methodology. The coach is going to follow a method for you to get to know yourself, for them to know you, and they're going to get you practical tools and throughout a program that's going to develop for you to be develop to a certain focus. A mentor is different. Some more of it's going to be your sponsor, like a sponsorship. It can be following a methodology. You can have a mentor that you can hire, but it's something more informal, where this person is going to sponsor, quote unquote, you, and it's going to be like an advisor to help you when you need to make a decision, when you have a dilemma, and when you're in a conundrum in terms of what way to go. So I think that's the difference. And the other question, Jason. Yeah, we have a student here, Michelle. She was interested in knowing the impact of LinkedIn and this change in terms of online CV and not. So LinkedIn is a global player. It works all over the world. It has the same way it works all over the world, and it works for a social network, but also recruiting platforms. So contact with other players in the market, and those are it's also an employment marketplace. So that's the other role of LinkedIn, and they do it pretty well. They generate a huge traffic as a content and social network that each one of us, I mean, I have my LinkedIn profile, I do my postings, and other companies or professionals do their postings. So it helps the recruiting companies, it helps companies to show themselves to the market, show their opportunities, and the professionals to show a little bit more of their profile, their experience, and so on. Yeah, I love this topic. I have a lot of contact on that on LinkedIn, because I think that what Chris said, who sees LinkedIn as a CV only? It's not. It's a social network. It has a broader scope. It's a great tool for sales. And if you want to sell yourself, it's a landing page, a free landing page that you can have on the internet. We cannot explore more this topic, but if you want, just Google LinkedIn, my name. I have a lot of content on how to have a good LinkedIn profile to help people in the commercial departments who are looking for opportunities. I think that LinkedIn, even using other recruiting tools, I'm not considering it exactly a recruiting tool. It's not exactly what we use, for instance, but LinkedIn as a platform to position your personal brand has changed the game completely. Good professionals work is to pretty well. Okay, thank you. We try to be very punctual. I'm going to ask the final question to the three of you. I'm really happy to be the least intelligent in this table, and I'm going to close with a question from three people from our audience. They are similar questions, Natalicia, Carlos, and Vivian. They're all asking about equality in the technology market between men and women and the gap that already exists there and how this is about to progress looking forward. So final words, Chris, and then we follow the same order, then Camila, and then Gabriela to close. Great, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here with you about this question. I think this is a wonderful work that we did from inside out. Companies are more aware of the need of diversity and how diversity brings more revenues and productivity, creativity and innovation, all that. And these companies, they are thinking about how to attract more women, how to retain these women. The great challenge is to retain these professionals. Companies are thinking about policies to encourage that, how to have women at the end of their recruiting process, how to improve benefits and flexibilize benefits for women. Companies are thinking about that and trying to create policies and concrete actions and pragmatic actions, and also training in terms of technology, just what I just said, to help women to train and grow in their companies. I think that's an important pillar. Companies, thank God we had a great product, and it's a conscious progress to implement programs and policies to make it happen. It wasn't easy for me, it wasn't, but we have to show our face and try. And us women, we suffer with the imposter syndrome. We think, oh, it's not going to work for me. We're only going to try if I have 110% ready. Of course, I'm generalizing. Of course, there are exceptions, but men, they are more adventure in this sense. We have to try. We're not going to be 100% ready all the time, but maybe you are the most ready at that time for that position. So you have to try, go after gaining knowledge, be resilient. So these are my advices. I'm not going to repeat what Chris just said. It's a great class. She just said what I think. An important point to mention is that what connects with she's is courage. Take the advantage of what we have. Recognize movements like this one. Thank you, Jason, for the invitation. I think it's huge. It's very important to have this forum where you open for women, different women, to share their experience. We know how representativeness, having someone to inspire you and motivates you is important. And I'm going to follow what Chris said. Be courageous, take action. If there's an opportunity, don't be a perfectionist. Go after it. Make mistakes doesn't mean failure. Making mistakes is part of success. You're just gonna fail if you give up. You're gonna get things right and get things wrong until you get everything right. You're never gonna fail if you don't try.
Gabriela, if you could bring us home, that would be great.
You're never gonna be successful if you don't try. Now, Gabriela, you have the floor.
Yeah, I mean, from my experience, I recognize and I acknowledge that, you know, in so many fields and so many areas, there is like a big difference between men and women. I've been pretty lucky because from my experience, I haven't been in any situation where I felt like, oh, I was being left out because I was a woman, or I wasn't able to find a job because I was a woman. Like for me, actually, it has been like the company that I work for, they're like, you know, young people, and they're like, you know, they have like more contemporary mindset. And, you know, when they hire me, they didn't really think about the fact like she's a woman, we wouldn't hire her. Like they were just like 100% sure they wanted to hire me. And when I started working there, there were like more men than women, not because they didn't want to hire women, but and just it was the way that it was. But like I've been there for 2 years, and at this point it's pretty much like half and half. They have hired way more women in the last year. So yeah, I mean, I haven't had like any experience, and I feel like fortunate about that. The only aspect where I would say like, okay, I feel in certain disadvantage, and it comes earlier to what we were talking about, like charging. And as a freelancer, I have been in situations where I need to, you know, put a price for something, and I feel bad about charging more. And I will think, if I were a man, I wouldn't feel bad about asking for more money. And it's not something that somebody's telling me that I shouldn't charge more. It's just like something that for some reason, like women feel, and just for a cultural reason that, oh, you know, men are usually paid more money than women. And, you know, it's not something that, you know, as I said, nobody told me that, but it's part of the culture. But I do feel that that is changing right now. And as we have like way more women having their startups and, you know, just putting their voices and their faces out there, I see, and I see like in my generation, there is like a transition. So yeah, that's kind of like what I can talk about from my experience.
Então, agradeço muito a participação das três. Foi uma conversa inspiradora, aprendi bastante.
So thank you so much for your participation, the three of you. It was a very interesting conversation. It makes me more excited about things to come. Gabriela said something that is not uncommon, and I hope that the exception to the rule, if that can change, I think. Thank you for your participation. Thank you our audience for attending this conference, and have a good